Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is the Commando Cast, a video cast about all things Star Wars Destiny. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando. IP-based games face a distinct challenge as compared to those with original properties or homebrew themes. While the most obvious of which is perhaps the maintaining of the license itself, that's actually not the primary challenge to which I'm speaking. Instead, it's the requirement of IP-based games to develop mechanics and design components, the creatures, weapons, ships, and so on, to be consistent with the property. In the case of Star Wars, a Luke or a Han needs to feel like a Luke or a Han. And while sure, it gives a solid starting point and direction, it can often restrict design space, how those components interact with other components, for example, and can certainly cause balance issues when they're forced to remain in lane. A game like Magic, on the other hand, might try to have a Liliana vest that deals with discard or graveyard, but largely have much more free reign. A game like Flesh and Blood allows for a mechanics-first design fitting their flavor and theme into their mechanics. Today I want to discuss the inherent challenges and traps included with top-down design, where mechanics are developed to fit an idea, versus bottom-up design, where game mechanics and balance come first. We'll discuss how this applies to a game like Destiny, and how pushing a bottom-up approach can reduce the need for post-release errata and balances. Hey there, Destiny folks, and welcome to Destiny Friday here on Dice Commando. I hope you guys are all doing fantastic. Thanks for checking in with me once again. I want to take a moment before we get started here to remind everyone of the ARH mid-cycle event that's happening September 3rd here on TTS. It sounds like a long ways away, but it's not, right? So head over to your preferred ARH source, whether it be the Discord, the website, the Facebooks, whatever it may be, for more information. So as we start today's video, I'd like to do a real quick exercise. So let's pretend for a moment that you are a game designer. Your job is to create a fun yet balanced and solid game around a popular IP. Would you rather start with a character and have to figure out how to fit that identity and theme into your existing rule set? Or would you rather apply existing components to your IP library? Which is easier to develop? Which is easier to balance? Let me know in the comments, and keep in mind that the answer to those questions might not be the same. Now, this is the challenge issued to designers, like Destiny, for IP-themed games. While you have a nearly limitless content base from which to pull, from a marketing standpoint, you're tasked with getting certain characters to the forefront. The dice duel system, which is the framework for the game of Destiny, owned by FFG, I think, Asmodee at least, was likely developed independent of any particular IP, at least from the beginning. They then had to bring the characters and the Star Wars universe into the game. How do you do the Force? Ability upgrades, I guess. How do we do ships? Piloting. How do we bring Ewoks as characters? Oopsies. Now look, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that this was an insurmountable challenge. In fact, the well-done thematic designs in Destiny are easily the ones that we applaud the most. Reylo, Vader TTB, Convergence Phasma, SOH Maul, just to name a few, right? Those and many other fantastically done ideas that captured theme and nailed balance became pretty game-defining mechanics, right? And some of our favorite decks. Basically everything I just listed there I thought was really well done. But there are many more examples which we don't need to go through because it's not the point, where being, as I'm calling it, hamstrung by theme, leads to one of two problems. One, the unforeseen interactions of the theme-based design created by a completely busted combo and or a negative play experience, right? Basically what happens is you focus so hard on getting the character to be in theme that it doesn't work in the game. Conversely, thematic characters can also be kept in check by design test teams, as a result often fall below curve and don't see much top-tier play because they aren't good, right? We've seen that a lot where it's like, well, why are my favorite characters bad, right? And we do see this a lot because in practice, the latter is actually the more common occurrence in theme-based games. And this isn't just in Destiny, but many other Star Wars games, not just by FFG, but even if you harken back in the day, the main characters are often not the ones that dominate the top meta play, right? For those from other games like Legion, Imperial Assault, X-Wing, even the old Decipher game, you're familiar with kind of the ongoing jokes for many years about Boba Fett, right? Boba Fett, for example, kind of continually sucked, at least in his first iteration. He kind of sucked in FFG's games. He wasn't super great in the Cloud City expansion for Decipher. You guys get it, right? And it's because Boba Fett is cool. He gets lots of attention and designers paying attention to him. But then people are afraid to make him too good and end up not making him effective enough to actually make the cut, right? And again, I'm using the Boba Fett example, but you guys get how that extrapolates to other characters within the game, even within Destiny. Now, I want to be clear here, that's not to say that Destiny has always been strictly theme-based design. One of the most successful mechanics in Destiny, in my opinion, was that of the odds package brought to the table in the form of Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters. This was an incredibly well-done mechanic that was pretty clearly designed and conceptualized and then given a face in the Star Wars universe, right? It was very clear to me, the designers were like, hey, let's do something with odds. How does, what can we put on this, right? There's nothing in the lore about the logistics of odd costs, but the Night Sisters were able to be kind of papered onto that role. And another such mechanic was actually the blanks as an offense, which was pushed really hard early, pushed by Lucas Litzinger. That ended up carrying onto the Inquisitors in later iterations, kind of by the AH crew. And it is also interesting here to note how both of those were blue villain, which I think actually kind of speaks to what I'm going for here, right? Because one of the less populated, I would say, parts of the Star Wars universe, right? There's only two, there's less of them, right? You guys get it, rule of two. So it's probably not a coincidence that the ancillary characters were an easier face to these mechanics that were likely developed first, right? I mean, the blanks mechanic is something that existed in game and was, later had people papered onto it, the odds. Anyway, you guys get it, right? And we see something similar on the ARH side, at least I believe. The charm mechanic, to me, appears to be something that, while yes, it was developed to solve a problem statement of how do we bring musicians to the game, it was inherently developed as a concept prior to developing the characters, right? That's something that it's a real solid mechanic. They developed the mechanic and how it worked, and they're like, what characters can fit into this? And yes, the problem statement was, how do we bring Ferg Dan or something to the game? I get it. But it developed, the mechanic itself developed. They didn't say, how do we embody Ferg Dan and everything he builds to the game? They're like, okay, this is a mechanic we've developed. Ferg Dan fits perfect into it. Ship it, right? Just like the Mother Talzin thing, right? Same type of thing. Now, while our focus thus far has been mostly on the design aspect, another challenge presented by IP-based games, and perhaps even more impactful to competitive games like Destiny, is that of playtesting. So it should come as no surprise that the big names get far more eyes and testing reps than some random or nameless character. This is, after all, just natural. A tester is a human being, a fanboy, girl, person, whatever it may be, and they're going to page through the testing document and look for their favorite characters and start there. Somewhat ironically, this makes the fan favorite characters more apt to be less powerful on average as compared to minions. More testing leads to catching more interactions, and less testing leads to more things slipping through the crack. It just makes sense. Think about it. Who do you think got more testing in covert missions? 17-point Poe Dameron pilot or the Trandoshan hunter, right? Hopefully you see my point. Now, finally, the manifestation of this problem, if we want to call it that, provides additional pressure on design even after the release happens, because then players are like, why does Boba Fett suck? Why is Leia unplayable? Right? Something like that. And this pressure in Destiny led to what I personally believe was the largest game-related mistake that FFG made. Game-related, not product-related. Right? The largest game-related mistake FFG made, which was the introduction of the negative balance of the Force. The expectation by designers, by the consumers, whatever it may be, but the expectation that every game component needed to be equally powerful and playable is both flawed and unrealistic, right? And I think most people would understand and agree with that, except it's Star Wars and it's my favorite character and something happens there, right? So by embracing this and implementing the negative balance of the Force, and thus validating that the expectation that everything is equally playable by lowering points, right? The result was that they pushed the power level of cards into untested territory, and not this isn't only risky in of itself, but it also kicks the can down the road, so to speak, right? And encourages, actually promotes further power creep. And now I know, I get it. That's not a very popular opinion. I've taken that negative feedback before, but hey, at least I'm consistent in my statements and my belief that that system itself is fundamentally flawed. Okay. Now, all the challenges we've talked about today highlight why non-IP games have a distinct advantage in terms of being better from a game mechanics standpoint. Now, it doesn't mean they're more attractive as a product or anything of that sort. In fact, that's why people go out and they get these IPs. But from a purely mechanical standpoint, from a fundamental standpoint, it makes these games easier to execute. In design, they can be largely bottom up, introducing and developing mechanics first versus being restricted by flavor. In playtesting, no one has any emotional attachments, helping from that aspect as well. So with that said, are IP games are they just screwed? I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. I'm sorry, kids, but it's true, and history is certainly on my side with that statement. If you look at not just Star Wars, but Star Wars, Star Trek, Babylon 5, Stargate, whatever you want it to look at, right? Sure, the end argument, maybe they lost their license, but let's be honest, they would have maintained the license if they could have made the money, right? So there was an issue there, whatever it may be, right? So anyway, now that doesn't mean all is lost. Yes, it is an unfavorable environment from a game balance, game longevity standpoint, but with knowledge and power comes a path forward. I feel like there's like a Sith absolute statement at that, right? With a proper mindset and awareness of said challenges, we've already cited bottom-up examples in Destiny, the odds, the blanks, ARH's charm, and so on, that have done very well. So the opportunity is certainly there. So as we conclude this cast, lecture, whatever it may be, I'd like to encourage the designers, the future designers, the testers, the future testers of ARH to be aware of what we're talking about here, right? Obviously, we're not going to stop designing fun and cool characters, nor should we. No one wants that. We're all here primarily because it's Star Wars. But for the longevity of the game and the tempering of long-term creep, it's very important to limit and/or closely watch the cases of top-down or theme-first design. So the key is this. The question I would float to the good folks at ARH as they look forward to the future is this. When you're looking at designing a new thing, are you asking yourself, how would I bring this character to the game? Or are you asking, who best fits this mechanic? And then ask yourself, what do I think would produce the better game result? So anyway, that's it for today. Let me know what you all think. Is that even doable in Destiny, and is it advisable? So let me know your thoughts. Thanks for talking. Thanks for watching. Love you guys, and go Commando.